Texas or was it Canada? Drinking whiskey in the morning light. Now what the stage on.
Welcome back to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Jeremy, definitely from Glasgow and not Manitoba, Vilmur. And joining us now is Bobby Blaze.
Hey, Jeremy, man, it's great to be back on the show. Welcome all you fans. If you're a regular listener, hey, big shout out to all of you. This is Bobby, the anti-mind Blaze, coming to you on a Bell to Bell with Blaze, Bobby Blaze podcast. So, once again, we're getting ready to record. This is episode number 10, and I'm excited to be here because we have some really good stuff lined up. So thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, and that being said, I think we had a pretty positive response to episode 9, which is all about Chris Candido, one of the unsung heroes of pro wrestling. So, thank you for everybody or to everybody who listened to it and gave us some feedback on it, and people who tweeted to us and told us that you appreciated taking the time to, spotlight somebody who gets overlooked from time to time. And Bobby, I know you and Chris were fairly close and worked together quite a bit, so I hope you enjoyed doing the episode.
I did. I really did. And it brought back some good memories. I try to think the positive and the good in people. And I hope that someone, got some insight on the good stuff, and you just have to blur out some things sometimes. But, man, I had a great time with it. We got to talk about Dan Severn on there. We talked about the NWA title. And, of course, got to, Chris Candido remembered. And we had some pretty good video footage of him. And also of him throwing me in the icy river and all those great memories back in the day of Chris in his younger days. So, yeah, it was a fun segment to do, too. You would think maybe you'd be sad about it, but you know what? Those memories were all good memories to me. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it came off really, really good. I want to take my hat off to you, but I don't have a hat on. I thought you edited it and produced it very well, and I appreciate that. I was surprised. Because I thought, man, I'm stumbling through it, or I felt like I was because I thought maybe I was going to be down about it. But anyway, you did a wonderful job of editing it, and now we're done sucking each other's dicks about it. Thank you, because you've done a great job with it, Jeremy, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bobby. I'm glad to hear that. Of course, it does mean a lot to me, being as how I produce the show and sometimes worry, because you and I do tend to run on at the mouth when we get onto the wrong topics at points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you did a great job with it. You really did.
Yeah, so the one thing I do want to pop real quick so we can move on is that I'm not going to do a person-to-person shout-out this week. I just want to say thank you to everybody following us on Twitter at Bell to Bell Blaze. We hit 544 followers. We are growing quickly, and I do appreciate everybody who's following us and interacting with us on there. Bobby, where can people find you on Twitter?
Likewise, you know what? You can find me at Bobby Blaze 744 at Twitter or on Twitter. And I knew we went over 500 for our earlier talk, and I'm really happy about that. I'm glad for the interaction and myself, too. I just want to thank all the fans that have, followed us, downloaded or listened to our podcast. And again, went over 500. That's great. At the Bell to Bell Blaze podcast, we've got a YouTube page at Texas Out There Running. We've got the Geekish Cast, and you can find me at Bobby Blaze 744. So stay in touch with me. We listen to the fans, believe me.
Oh, yeah, and in today's top 10 list, when we get to it, wouldn't have been built without fan interaction. I can tell you that right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. And before we roll into our news segment, I do want to tell everybody out there, please take a moment to rate and review us wherever you listen to our show. It does help new listeners find us. So please, if you're on iTunes, Google Play, wherever, take a few minutes, give us, I would prefer a great review, but give us an honest review, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, I do too. You know what I tell people, or I ask of people? I don't tell them anything. I suggest it to them strongly sometimes. But when I have someone review my books, I ask, and the same thing with this podcast, all we ask for is a fair and honest review. But we do appreciate all reviews. Of course, we love to have 5 stars. It doesn't take that long to write a couple of sentences. But if you don't feel like giving us a 5-star, just be fair and honest with us and leave us, and at least leave us a review. We appreciate that very, very much. And it does go a long way in helping us gain listeners. It does go a long way in helping keep our current listeners. And if someone's just out there floating around, in the internet world or cyberspace or wherever, and they say, hey, what's this? And they see it's got a couple of really nice reviews or something written about us, they give us a try, especially if they're pro wrestling fans or just like being entertained. It gives them a reason to say, you know what, I'm going to click this button and see what the hell these guys have to say. And hopefully they take something away from it. So, yeah, thank you very much. And be sure and leave us a review, iTunes, Google Play, where the fuck you steal our fucking stuff from, because it's free. So you're not stealing it. We're giving it to you. This is good. This is the good stuff, man. Come and get it.
Absolutely. All right. So last week we premiered our new thing where we're going around the country, coming to you from historical wrestling venues that may or may not exist anymore at the time we were doing it. But thankfully I have a time machine and we can do this sort of thing. So this week we are coming to you from the Grand Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, California. Yes,
man. What a venue, huh?
Yeah.
What a, man. I'm just going to read one little headline if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
This is from the LA Times from June 16th of 2016, and this will kind of go into what Jeremy was talking about with the, we're going to talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Auditorium there, or Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, rather, I'm sorry. What do Andre the Giant, Frank Sinatra, and the Dead Kennedys have in common? The Olympic Auditorium. And I thought that was a really cool headline. It's a great article. So anyway, I would have loved, go ahead, Jeremy, tell me a little bit about the Olympic Auditorium in LA there, please.
Yeah, the Grand Olympic Auditorium opened up in 1932. It ran all the major events in the Los Angeles arena or Los Angeles area from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then it blew up big during the 60s and 70s, ran out of the Olympic Auditorium. Rage Against the Machine played their last show there before they broke up in 2000. It was home to the old roller derby Los Angeles T-Birds. Every major boxing and wrestling event that happened down in the Los Angeles area, they happened there every other Friday night, apparently. I'd actually like to verify that and find out what nights they ran certain events. The other thing that I think is really cool about the Olympic, it wasn't owned by, but it was ran by the Belll family. And for people who don't know the Belll family, I'm going to focus on one in particular, Judo Gene Belll. A man so bad he dyes his judo gi pink just hoping somebody will say something. A man so bad, when he was in his mid-80s, he choked out Steven Seagal and made him shit his pants.
Yes.
A man so bad that when his brother Mike ran into trouble with other wrestlers or people from the wrestling business, he'd pick up the phone and call Gene and ask him to straighten it out. The LaBelle family was truly a old school wrestling family. They are just there's an amazing story to be told there that I would need to research a lot more to dig in further than that. But it's an almost mystical place, the Grand Olympic. And I guess even at one night, ECW ran a show there, and XPW sent a bunch of people to sit in the front row wearing their T-shirts, and then Tommy Dreamer and the security team dragged them all outside, and there was a giant brawl.
Oh, man, I would have loved to just went to an event there, let alone if I would have got to wrestle there, that would have been great. But, man, as a fan, I recall, seeing the roller derby on TV. I guess it was syndicated back in the day on a little black and white TV and eventually color. But, seeing because we didn't have a color until I was a little bit older, so that's why I say black and white. But, man, just the one poster I had, or a picture, rather, I had, it said wrestling was like Tuesday and Saturday nights, and then boxing every Friday night. And I'm sure that's probably during the heyday, and I think that's just awesome. Of course, you had that roller derby and then all those concerts there. I would imagine just the atmosphere we talked about would have been great. Just go to that building where you knew, whether it be, it's going to sound funny, but where blood was probably spilled, whether it was roller derby, whether it was a punk rock band playing, wrestling or boxing, you know how much beer was drank and blood was spilled in that arena, and probably smoke-filled arena. And plus, I'm sure Hollywood shot several TV segments there through the years, So that would have been a great, for me, what a great venue that would have been to be able to, just as a fan, go in and watch a show, let alone be able to perform there. So anyway, thanks for sharing that with us, and we're glad to come to you from the Grand Olympic Auditorium. And what is that, 18th? What was the street, Jeremy? 18th and Grand or something? What was
I think it was 18th and Grand, but of course
I think it was 18th and Grand is what. If I read it correctly, I think that's what it said. So,
oh yeah, so it's at 1801 South Grand Avenue, just south of the Santa Monica Freeway.
Cool.
Yeah, so Bobby, I do want to point out before we get too far, you haven't asked me what I've got in this paper bag here, but at the end of the show, I want to come back to this, so don't forget to ask me about that, okay?
Okay, I'll take a note. What's in the fucking paper bag? None of my damn business, probably, but that's beside the point.
Oh, no. It'll be part of your business, but I don't want to do it till the close of the show, though.
Okay, yeah. I know, but yeah.
Well, I'm gonna take this moment and we're gonna start working our way towards the top 10 of the week, but I do want to bring this out. This week we are talking about Rowdy Roddy Piper. And Gene LaBelle was one of the men who trained Rowdy Roddy Piper to be a pro wrestler. And so I believe that means Rowdy Roddy Piper would have worked in that territory at some point, right?
Yes. I'm sure there's a picture. Has Motivational Monday from the Olympic Auditorium, and it says, instead of Motivational Monday, how about Mayhem Monday? And it has Roddy Piper standing there. And of course, he worked out there, and he worked, the Cow Palace up in San Francisco. So I'm sure he worked up and down the coast there in California. And I'm sure early on he did work, at the Olympic Auditorium. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We got anything else we want to take care of before we want to move on to our main topic?
Yeah. One thing real quickly. Let me just throw this out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Folks, if you got a chance, check out our GoFundMe. I asked a few weeks back. This is just to offset some of the hosting fees for our podcast. We're in no way, shutting down, nothing like that. We're not in dire straits for the money. We're just looking for if you can donate $5 or $10, that's great. But it's about $20 per month. If you can just offset that by donating to our GoFundMe, that money can go to Jeremy. Jeremy's putting it directly. He's not making a dime off of it. He's putting it directly back into the podcast. He's taking the time to edit, produce this. And I brought it up just for the simple fact that we would like to get a little bit of financial support on that end. And we've had some great donations so far. But in exchange for that, I'll send you out a T-shirt or a book or a 8x10 picture or something like that. I'll make it worth your while. Just hit me up on Twitter at BobbyBlaze744 or the Geekish Cast or our Belll to Belll Blaze. But if you just type in your Google, Belll to Belll, it's one of the first things that pop up. Just do us a nice favor, pass the word, retweet it if I send it out there. Let some people know that, we just we'll have a small goal of $350. And if you just make a small donation, we'd appreciate it. I know I would. I'm sure Jeremy would. And it's just to offset some hosting fees. No one's trying to make a dime or get rich off of you. And we're not bumming or begging. We will give you something in exchange for that. Some of the people that's already donated there are aware of. Eventually there's going to be a Patreon page, and you'll get behind the scenes podcast from Jeremy and myself that no one else will be exclusive. And the people that's donated already will already get access to that. So it'll give you access to our Patreon page when that does come. So I just want to spit that out there and get out of the way. And that's that. And I'll shut up about it. Let's move on.
All right. Well, the next section of the show is sponsored by I Kicked Out on 2, The Education of a Wrestler by Bobby Blaze Smedley, who also happens to be the co-host of this show. You can find that book at tinyurl.com/blazebook2. That will take you to our Amazon affiliate page, take you right to the book, and you can buy it right there. You can read a lot about Bobby's interactions with Rowdy Roddy Piper. Bobby, before we get into this, why don't you tell us a Rowdy Roddy Piper story?
All right. Well, that's what I was waiting on. Just been waiting on that. So back in the day, I had just finished. I just went full time into the business. Got my first little break up there in the Maritimes and went up there for 16 weeks. And I came home back to Kentucky. I was on my way to Florida, so I stopped by Kentucky here. And some buddies of mine had done some TVs down in Florida for the WWF back in the day. And where I had worked, I'd been working out Malenko's, working around Florida. I'd already been to South Africa and a couple other places. And I'd been up there to the Maritimes and working real regular. So a couple of my buddies, I was talking to them long distance back in the day, pre-cell phones, whatever. And they said, man, you know, if the WWF comes to your area, you ought to go and do the TV. And of course, you'll do anything to get a break, you know, and plus I wasn't sure, you know, they all told me that you get a good payday. So lo and behold, within a couple of weeks of me coming home, the WWF was up in Huntington, West Virginia. So they told me to ask for J.J. Dillon. And of course, I'm rather green back in those days. And so, of course, I did, you know, I had been working, you know, I was trained and all that. Anyway, I go up there and knock on the door. I asked for JJ to let me in. And at the time, I had bleached blonde hair. I had a pretty good tan, built pretty decent from what a calisthenics I was doing with Malenko's and up on the road and all this. So what came about was, you know, when you go to an event like that, it was a TV taping for the Superstars of Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. It was on back in the day on Saturday mornings maybe. But anyway, you don't know who you're going to, you know, first of all, you don't know if they're going to put you on a show or not. So I went up there with my brother, and we're sitting there, and I'm on a table. And, of course, all these superstars are walking in and out, you know, and it's a big production, and it's you know, it's blowing me away, but it's what I'm wanting to do, you know. It's where I want to eventually get to or what have you. And as I'm sitting there, Roddy Piper comes walking by. And, of course, I'm professional for everyone. I always introduce myself and this and that. But I was just sitting on this table with my brother, and Piper comes strolling by, and I could tell he's not really like, he's thinking about something else. Let's just say that, because he's not there shaking hands with everyone as he's walking in. You just tell he's probably tired from the road or what have you. But he gets a couple of steps past me, and he turns back around, and he walks up to me, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Roddy Piper. How are you?" And I said, "Bobby Blaze, you know, it's an honor to meet you. I know who you are." And he goes, "You know what? You look a little bit like Ric Flair." He said, "Who you working tonight, kid?" And I said, "Sir, I have no idea," because there was no board up or anything. And of course, this was my first night up there. They just told me, you know, go sign up, go sit down, you know, stay out of the way, basically. And I said, "You know, I have no idea." I said, "No one's told me anything other than come over here and have a seat." He goes, "You got a minute?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Come with me." So Piper and I get up, and this is back of the Huntington Civic Center. We go in the back, beyond the back, into a bathroom. And he just starts talking to me and says, "You know, I've got this great idea. I'm doing this program with Ric Flair. You just look a lot like him." He said, "Would you care to do something with me tonight if Rick agrees to?" And I'm like, you know, first of all, I'm in awe that, you know, he's asked me to participate in some way on the show. And second of all, you know, I'm just kind of in awe, like, not trying to mark out, but I'm like, I'm going to do whatever the hell you want me to do. You know, you picked me out to come back here, and who the fuck wouldn't want to work with Roddy Piper, you know? So, he says, "You care to wait right here?" I go, "Yes, sir." So I'm just standing in a bathroom, you know, waiting around. I'm thinking, a couple minutes goes by, and it's, you know, it's a pretty big building, but I'm like, you know, is this a rib? Was he trying to, does someone where I worked the territory, which we'll get to later on. There's a couple of stories. I knew people that knew Piper, so I didn't know him personally to that night. So I'm thinking, is this a rib, or, you know, is he just whatever? I really didn't know. And I was there probably less than 5 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity, of course. And the bathroom door opens up, and in comes Piper, and right behind him is Ric Flair. And, you know, Flair's got his spine suit on. He had been over doing interviews or what have you. And Piper, you know, he says, "This is Ric Flair." And Rick sticks his hand out. I say, "Hey, you know, I'm Bobby Blaze. And it's nice to meet you. It's an honor, you know, a fan of both you guys. You know, what am I going to do? What am I going to say, you know?" And he goes, "Rick, I got this idea." He says, "I'm going to do a spot with the chair. We're doing these chair shows coming up. I'd like to do a promo and use this kid, Ed, for my match tonight." And he goes, and I understand he does a pretty good Ric Flair impersonation. And I was like, well, I wouldn't say that, because he kind of put me on the spot. But, you know, everyone does you know, I'm a kiss dealing, wheeling dealing, jet fly, you know. But I would, you know, of course, going to go, and I'm going to blow your ears. I'll go, woo, you know, and who doesn't get, you know. So Flair just looked at me and go, "That's pretty good, kid. That's pretty good." And he goes, "Do one thing." And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Blow him now or something? I don't know. Cause I'm just standing there listening to these two guys. And he puts his hand up to his nose and he goes, kid, if you take that bump that I take out of the corner, turn your head or your nose will look like this. and he just started laughing like you did. And he reached his hand out and he goes, have a good match with Roddy, and turned and walked out. And Piper goes, hey, what do you think about this? And, he asked me a little bit about my experience. I told him and he said, you know what? You know my finish? I said, yes, sir, it's Bulldog. He said, call whatever, make it quick. And he said, I'll Bulldog you. And if the feeling's right, I'll get the chair and we'll go from there. And if it's not, you just take the pin. I go, no problem whatsoever. And so, we're getting ready to go out. And, he says, this is like an hour and a half later, and of course they say you can't use Bobby Blaze. You have to use Bobby Smedley from Ashland, Kentucky. And I said, hey, fuck, I'm glad to be here. I'll use whatever, so that's not a problem. So we're standing there and, at the gorilla position, he says, kid, don't let me in the ring. I'll get in the ring when I'm ready. And he said, but you are infuriated and just get after me. And he said, fight me off and, give me a reason to come in. And he said, spit in my face. I want you to try to spit right in my eye. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you serious? You want me to spit on you? He goes, spit in my face. And I go, I don't know if I can do it or not. He goes, listen, kid, I'm calling it. He said, right now, just spit in my direction and try to hit me in the eye. And I said, I'm a pretty good spitter. I ain't going to lie. But I said, I'll spit if you want me to. And he goes, I do. And he goes, then when I come in, call something. We'll do a couple moves when I Bulldog you, it's time. And so, yeah. And then the match is on YouTube. We found it. I hadn't seen it. I think someone sent it to me a few months back, actually. But long story short, man, Piper comes down there, and that's going to lead us to our number 10, what I heard. And then Piper's there, and he's coming. I'm swatting at him, swinging at him. And you'll see it. I swing, and it's glancing. It doesn't hit him, and he leans back. And next thing you know, it doesn't focus on me spitting, but you see him wipe his eye. I got him right in the damn eye, spitting Roddy Piper's eye. And he's saying, this kid thinks he's Ric Flair, oh, do you? You think you're Ric Flair, do you? And he comes in, and I start glomming him down because I know he's a heel and he's going to fight me back and he's going to cut me off if he wants to. But I'm just hitting him. And I'm like, the first thing that come to mind was an old Terry Funk spot I saw years ago where he took 2 or 3 turnbuckles and a backdrop. And I said, turnbuckle, backdrop. And I took it and I started selling to the corner and he said, Bulldog. And I just fed right out. There it is. 1, 2, 3. It was a thank you under the breath. And he said, stay. And so I knew the chair spot was there. He slid out for a second. When he come back in, I knew to scoot because he had already told me he didn't really want to use the chair on me just at a last moment thing if that spot was there. So I knew to get the fuck, and there it was. He gives me this shot that knocks me right over the top rope, and that's my Roddy Piper story, man. I've met him, several years later, but that night was a really good night. I got a hell of a payoff. I couldn't believe that. He got me a hell of a payoff because you're working one of the top guys at the time. And what a complete professional and a complete gentleman. And he was super easy to work with. And just, it was really great for someone just to walk by. And like I said, he took a step or two past me and turned and said, hey, I'm Roddy Piper. Like I didn't know. And I'm like, yes, sir. And told him my name. And he says, you know who you work with. And you look like Flair. I got an idea for you. And man, what an idea it was. So I got that claim to fame because to me, Roddy Piper is one of the people who throw these terms around all the time. Heroes and legends and icons. But to me, and it's going to take us to our top 10, Jeremy, right here. Number 10, the bagpipes. Okay. And to me, when they throw those words around, the word icon comes to mind when I think of Roddy Piper. He was a true icon in the wrestling business. So let's start our list with number 10, bagpipes. Do I need to say more?
No, not really. I mean, it changed here and there, but Roddy Piper would come to the ring to Scotland the Beautiful, played on bagpipes and drums. As soon as you heard the bagpipes, like we said back about Stone Cold with the glass breaking, you knew exactly what you're in for as soon as the drums and bagpipes started.
Yep. When I heard him, I knew here he comes, and that was that. And never forget that moment. It was an awesome moment, as fleeting and as short as time as it was. But as soon as those bagpipes come out, man, you knew who was coming down that ramp. We done our music special a few weeks back on one of the episodes, but I don't think we had bagpipes on there because we did have a lot of good entrances, music and theme music. But man, everyone damn sure knew when those bagpipe played, only one person was coming down that aisle, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yep, and it didn't matter if he was playing face or heel. His music got the appropriate response every time.
Every time, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It could work a crowd into a frenzy or a cheer. It just depended on how he's being billed at the time.
Yes. Yes.
You know, real quick, I want to reference back to the gimmick name I was using this week. I didn't know till later, but Roddy Piper is related to the Hart family. And this definitely comes up because with the Vince Russo thing, eventually Piper looks at Vince Russo and says, "You're the guy that killed my cousin." And he's speaking about Owen. But the problem there was, that revealed to me that Roddy Piper was Canadian and not Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I met my first Scottish person and realized that's not English that they're speaking.
I've got a Scottish friend that lives here in Ashland, of all fucking places, and I don't know what the hell he speaks. His name's Andy, and I talk to him, and I've known him for years, and I just nod my head and go. And then I've got one off of Twitter, a young lady I speak to from Scotland sometimes, and man, when she talks, I love the way she talks, but I don't know what the fuck she's saying. I just go with it, I really do. It's a whole, I don't even know, nothing but love to you Scottish people, but I don't know what the fuck they're saying, man.
No, I have to be around people a lot before I can start hearing through a Glasgow or a Glaswegian accent. One of our best friends is from Glasgow, and the first 6 months we knew her, I had to read her lips because I'm like, what the fuck is she saying? But I do want to, I love old school kayfabe shit in wrestling where we're like, we'll just change his last name and say he's from some foreign country. And we'll just go for it. That's just how it'll work.
Yeah. And it worked for all those years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing about the kayfabe days, man. That's the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
Everyone didn't know everything, but you know what? Even when I go to shows nowadays, I don't want to fucking know everything. I want to enjoy the show.
Exactly.
I don't want to see, Chase the cab driver. I want to see Chase the badass, or whoever in the ring,
Help me shut off my logical portion of the brain for a minute and enjoy what I'm watching.
Right.
That's all
right
I
on,
ask.
man.
Nobody ever questioned Sheik Adnan El Casey's Arab accent.
Well, let's move on to number 9.
Yes, number 9 is the motion picture They Live.
Yes.
It was written and directed by John Carpenter, a true legend of horror films, and, other things as well. But Halloween is my personal favorite that he did. Came out in 1988, and it starred, they don't say his name in the movie, but it starred Roddy Piper as John Nada, according to the end credits.
Okay.
Who discovers a pair of sunglasses that allows him to see that aliens are the ruling class, getting the world basically to consume, obey, breed, and carry on the status quo. Yeah.
Man, I love that movie. And the fight scene is with Keith David, I think's his name.
Yeah.
I heard back in the day, just because I was at Malenko's at the time, and everyone like, oh, Piper, he choreographed that. That's Piper, he put that together. But I don't know if that's true or not. But man, that fight scene is pretty realistic, and I really liked it because I liked that guy's character. He was in Platoon, was Keith David, so I liked him, and I thought they had a really good, realistic fight scene in there. And of course, it's not giving away or spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Spoiler alert when he goes down at the end, and it's almost like that Terminator type movement. That middle finger's right there. Just like, fuck you. He knew the gimmick. He got them glasses and knew the deal. And, man, that's a good one for number 9, man. They Live. If you haven't seen it, get your ass to I can't say to a video store. I don't know. Go fucking on the internet and find it. Buy it.
I was going to say, here's the thing. That movie came out 30 years ago. If they haven't seen it yet, you can't call giving it away a spoiler anymore.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Thank you for clarifying that.
That was a long, long time ago.
I get that shit from Smoky Mountain sometimes, though. Like even on Booking the Territory, to shout out to Mike, sometimes they'd ask me something like, you're talking about something that fucking happened like 25 years ago. It's not like I'm telling you something that's not going to happen in your next episode, so I'm real careful with that though, because I do respect the fans and I do try to protect the business as much as I can. But yeah, if you haven't seen They Live by now, I didn't give you a spoiler alert. Go watch it anyway. It's a good movie.
You should. And if you're a fan of action or horror films and you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to check it out. If you're a Roddy Piper fan and haven't seen it, the fuck are you doing?
Exactly.
What's wrong with you? All right. Number 8.
Yeah.
And we're going to start building towards something here, so the next few kind of start getting into groups, but this is the first of something we'll reference again. Martin Downey Jr. blowing smoke in Roddy Piper's face.
Oh my goodness, man. That one, I had to recall on that I wasn't sure, and we spoke a little bit earlier, if it was actually off of a Piper's Pit or not, because I knew it took place in the ring, and it was. But my great memory of that was my dearly beloved dead deceased mother. She was yelling at the TV, he's going to slap the shit out of him. He's going to slap the shit out of him. And if you could have seen her, she had this fiery red hair anyway. And she's watching the TV, and we're watching it, and she'd watch it when I watched it. It's one of those things that build up. And she was a Morton Downey. She thought that guy was a nut. She watched his show, but when that segment came on and Piper's going back and forth, and Morton Downey Jr. is going to blow that smoke does blow the smoke in his face, my mom going, he's going to slap the shit out of him. Is he crazy? And I mean, she was buying it hook, line, and sinker, man. And to me, and my memory of that is totally worth that coming in at number 8. Because of that moment, I got to share with my mom, and she was probably just a couple years older than I am right now when she watched. But man, she was fucking hot. She knew Morton Downey Jr. was about ready. He's gonna get the shit slapped out of him. He's gonna get the shit slapped out of him, and that's what she kept saying. And she never really had this Kentucky accent. She was from Baltimore, and for whatever reason, she always kept that kind of East Coast accent, if you will. She was like, he's gonna get the shit slapped out of him. She talked just like my grandmother. So it's just one of those fucking things that just, if you haven't seen it, go fucking find that, because it's a good one. That's a good number 8, Jeremy.
Well, and I just want to throw it out there real quick for maybe younger people or people who didn't watch as much shitty TV as we did back in the day. Morton Downey Jr. was a chain-smoking talk show host who had controversial guests on. I think he was one of the first ones to get wrestlers to come on and break kayfabe, as well as other just stupid shit.
Yeah.
I think this segment also had the bonus of Tom Pritchard's brother getting the shit slapped out of him too, right?
Oh, man, I don't know, 'cause my head was wrapped around what I told you, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to fact check you. I'm going to believe you.
I think Brother Love might have got slapped around a bit here. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But that was number 8, Morton Downey Jr. Don't blow your smoke in my face.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great stuff right there, man. Great stuff.
That really is.
So, number 7, I know you got it. What is it?
Number 7, Rowdy Roddy Piper wins the Intercontinental title from the Mountie, who was one of the Rougeau brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure which, because French Canadians, I can't pronounce their names anyway, so I don't try to separate them.
Yeah, and you've got all that heat with those Canadians anyway.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to play that down, though, and I'm going to get them a gift. It'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about the greatest champions who never were, that needed a title per se, a few segments back, and you can always go back and look at all, go to the Bell to Bell, with Bobby Blaze podcast, and they're all listed right there on iTunes or wherever, and we done that. And Piper, he didn't need a title like, the world title is what we were talking about, AWA, NWA, WCW, we'll get to, and then in WWEF, whatever. But he had an Intercontinental title, and it led somewhere, and he did beat the Mountie for it, as you said. So I think that should give us a segue to number 6, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, 7 and 6 actually kind of go together.
Right.
WrestleMania number 8, unless I read my Roman numerals wrong, Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Bret the Hitman Hart for the Intercontinental title. I think I've heard of this Hitman guy before.
You may have.
Yeah,
I
think I've heard of him.
Yeah,
so I guess what happened was right before a pay-per-view, Bret Hart lost the Intercontinental title to the Mountie, and then Roddy Piper won it at the pay-per-view. Now, Bobby, this is something I'm going to ask for your expertise a little bit. Is this the sort of move you do when you're trying to add a little prestige to a title that has maybe slipped since the days when Macho Man held it?
I think at that point, I don't know. I think at that point they're still just trying to make money and keep fans interested, because that's kind of it's still a little bit kayfabe-ish at that time.
It was.
And I think because I'm going back in my mind towards the finish, so I would imagine they're still just trying to do business without giving a whole lot away. I recall, I thought it was a Mania. I wasn't sure. When you said the April date, I knew it was. It was probably one of those things where they just transitioned the title to set it up for the Bret Hart and Rowdy Piper deal for Mania. It's probably one of those angles but the finish is what I recalled about that. And again, we didn't go on fact check unless Jeremy did. I went by memory. I recall it being a really, really good match. And it seemed like one of them, I think Piper had Hart in the sleeper, and I could be correct on that very easily. But I think when they went back, Jeremy, when they both went back, it was one of those deals where both men's shoulders were on the mat, if I'm not mistaken, and then like Hart just gets his up at the last second, or maybe Piper pinned himself or whatever. Really controversial, but that's where the title changed hands again. But I recall it just as being, in the business and loving the business. I just really thought it was a very, very good wrestling match. So I don't know about what kind of business they were doing at that time. I'm just looking at it from my perspective. I thought it was just a hellacious good match between two talented guys. Although you may vary your opinion of Bret Hart there. So, because I'm not so sure where you stand with him and all the Canadian fans you have.
Oh, hey, hold on now. I actually happen to think Bret Hart was a better wrestler than Piper. Wrestler.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything about his on-screen ability or, whatever.
Yeah.
But his ability to get into a ring and wrestle, I think he was better.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
You probably are right. I'm going to agree with you on that. He probably was.
Yeah.
Now, worker-wise and getting your gimmick over-wise, I've got to go with Piper.
That's a whole different question.
Yeah, you're right as far as the wrestling. What is it? The best or what? The best there is, the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be. Bret Hart executed some, great moves, tremendous wrestler.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
Piper knew how to get his gimmick and the character and his work and the entertainment and the fighting. He knew how to get it all over. He got it all in, that. But yeah, so I don't know how to answer your question other than tell you I just thought it was a tremendous fucking match. Someone may tell us, someone else won or how the finish went off, but it seemed like I remember him doing the old double, pin down, one of the shoulders up.
And the simple fact of the matter is it gives credibility to Bret Hart because he beat a fucking icon. Roddy Piper. Yes. There's, as fuzzy as the ending is, it puts a rub on the guy no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I could be wrong. I read both their books. Piper had a book, not the one that's out right now. He had another one out several years ago before he passed away. And of course, we talked about the Bret Hart book. I think that match was actually, that's what the deal was. Piper was giving him the rub for singles, if I'm not mistaken. There was something about that. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could fact check that, but I think you're right. There is something there. That was the rub. He was giving Bret Hart, like doing the favor for a reason.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a quick aside story here real quick. A handful, maybe 10, 12 years ago, right? My kids were both younger. They were watching the Roddy Piper DVD that was available back then. And right in the middle of it, as they're doing they're talking about how the fans took to him, fan reaction, blah, blah, blah. My oldest kid goes, "Hey, isn't that your Uncle Mike in the crowd?" And I turn around and look, and there in this fan reaction shot of the crowd, slowed down, is my dad's younger brother wearing his cowboy hat, his PBRA shirt, his bull riding glove, slamming his hands together. And there he had a best friend who's been dead for several years now. His name was Donnie, who had polio when he was a kid. So Donnie was in a wheelchair, and there's fucking Donnie right next to him. I'm like, holy shit, I wonder if they even know they're in this.
So they're actually on the DVD.
They're actually on the DVD.
Man, that's cool.
I just thought about that, because I can't remember what match it was. I think it was like a Sacramento Raw or something back in the late 90s. But
wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. See, that's the good stuff. We was talking about wrestling, what it does for people, bringing people together, man. That's the good stuff. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right on for that side story.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to number 5.
Yeah, and I want you doing this one because you've got a lot more insight and reason to have this one, and I appreciate it, respect your reason for having it at number 5.
And this one's going to be fairly broad too, but the way I did this was Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis, and this includes everything up to and including and blah blah blah. But Roddy Piper comes back after being gone for a while. And his show has been taken over by a recently very much changed Adrian Adonis from his biker bad boy days with Jesse Ventura as a tag team into a more exotic Adrian Street type character, which is something I'm going to talk about at some point, is homosexual representation within the world of wrestling, even though gays were a prominent part of wrestling all the way back to 50s. But we'll get to that another time. So Roddy Piper comes back. He wants his show back, there on the stage where the show was. And Adrian's like, oh, no, this isn't like a temporary deal. And he pulls out a pink cowboy hat wearing Bob Orton to drive the point home. And all shit breaks loose from there.
Yep.
We come back from that, and then Roddy Piper comes in with a baseball bat and wrecks the joint. Basically, this starts a trend in Roddy Piper's future life. I mean, he may switch a few more times here and there, but this takes Roddy Piper from a vile, hated heel to an super uber face character for most of the rest of his career.
Yeah.
So we have Adrian Adonis and Jimmy Hart and all the heat that you can put into this story, and it comes down to them fighting over a show. It also leads to a wrestling match at WrestleMania 3, where it was a hair versus hair match. Piper almost loses, but thanks to Brutus Beefcake, gets the win, and then retires for 20 months after that. And for some reason now we have a talk show with Brutus Beefcake.
Yeah.
After that. Yeah. But that being said, they used a lot of moving parts here to take younger people may not realize how fucking hated Roddy Piper was at one point. They really may not. And you don't understand what a big face turn it was for him to go that way.
Right. And, there's such a right way and a wrong way to turn someone from face to heel. And back in the day, sometimes people went, they'd jump from heel to face or face to heel. But it was built out over time, over a storyline. And it made complete sense. And it's kind of hard to do. And the way they did that, like you said, those moving parts to take a fucking heel, probably one of the most over heels ever, and turn them to a baby face.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things, is that gray area of, what, do I like them or do I hate them still? Because Piper really never changed his character. He was Piper, but now, the fans, when we heard them bagpipes, you got the reaction was a lot different than what he had been getting. So it set up that whole face turn for him, and that's unlike today. And it's not a dig towards any of today's product. Back then, it made so much sense of the build up as to what happened and how it happened and why it happened to turn him face. It was incredible. So that comes in at number 5, the Piper versus Adonis and the whole fucking destruction of the flower shop. So, yeah.
I don't think you can do Piper's character arc without that. I do want to point out, like Tex, our graphics and video guy, said, there was a moment back in the NWA or Georgia Championship where Piper went from heel to face and saved Gordon Soley from Don Morocco, back when Don Morocco was really still Don fucking Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to point out that wasn't the first time it had been done, but this was the major sea change in Piper's career here.
Yeah, and we do talk about some of those things, and that's why we do appreciate everyone's input. We know everything may not be the first time that everyone else saw it, or this segment, or back when there was just magazines and you saw it once a week on a Saturday, or what have you. But this was on a grand scale of things at that point, So that was the significance of it. That what you're pointing out, it may not have been the first time, but on a large scale, it was when everyone actually saw that. So, yeah. And we're going to get into that, Tex, eventually, about some of everyone's. We're going to input from everyone, I guess, Jeremy, as we talked about a little bit earlier, about what was their favorite moments of a match or a memory as a fan, things like that happening, So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Well, Bobby, I'm gonna have to tell you that we're desperately out of time, but the tape machines are rolling. So we're gonna power through. We're gonna go on to number 4 here, and don't forget to ask me about the paper bag when we get done. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through this. Number 4. We're going to backstep just a second here. And that's when Piper's Pit was still there before it became the Fire Shop, and it was one of my all-time favorites. He had Piper's Pit, and of course he had Andre the Giant, Iron Sheik, and all these different people. But the best one to me was when he had Jimmy Snuka on there, and he busted a coconut on Jimmy Snuka's head. I just popped big time for that. I was watching. I think I was with a couple college buddies, and we just watching that, and it's just like, man, to me, it was just one of the best things. It goes right up there with the, he's going to get the shit slapped out of him, my mom yelling at, it's because we just knew something was going to happen, and Piper cracks the coconut on Jimmy Snuka's head. And to me, that was one of my top 10 reasons why I liked Roddy Piper. And so since we kind of tied all those together, we're going to go just jump ahead. We've got 3 left, and I know we're running out of time. Okay, good. I'm sorry. I didn't know you had
it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
I need you to help me remember something. Was it after the coconut incident, the thing where Vince McMahon got Jimmy Snuka, and he's all like, he hit you on the head with a coconut, Jimmy, and then he spit in your face, and then Jimmy Snuka's just all wired up, and he's like, and then he drove to your house and made a sandwich out of your refrigerator and watched TV and changed all your preset channels. Was that the same one?
Man, I had no fucking clue. I don't even know where the fuck. I don't know how to answer you. I don't even know. It seemed like I remember something about. I don't fuck Jeremy. I don't know, man. You got me on the ropes, man.
Okay,
I
gotta look
I'm
that
gonna
up.
hit half a damn coconut because my mind's going to where someone smartened Snuka up that they was screwing him out of his money and stuff, and he became face at one point or something. So when back before that, so yeah, you got me. I'm fucking taking turnbuckles for you, brother. I don't know.
I'll have to look that up because there's an
let's
interview.
Look that up because
there's an interview where McMahon's just doing the whole he spit on you, Jimmy. It was terrible.
I just remember losing at the coconut, man.
Oh shit!
Yeah, no, good recall. We'll look that up because I don't. Like I said, you're bashing my head against turnbuckles. Yeah. Oh man, let's talk about number 3. If you have nothing else to add, there, Mr. McMahon.
No, we're fine to move ahead here, right?
Yeah, number 3 ties right into Vince because this one of the earlier ones, way before. A couple years before at least. Starrcade 1983, one of the first pay-per-views or what would you call them back in the day, I guess, closed circuit type deals. And it was the dog collar match between Roddy Piper and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And they just went at it, man. And it was 15, 18-minute match maybe, and they just beat the dog shit out of each other.
Yeah, this was just a brutal fucking beatings all the way around. I don't know how you actually do this match without hurting anybody. So this is one, back in the day, I never saw this match. My friends never saw it, but the people who bought wrestling magazines had heard about it. Our uncles and shit had been through a tape trader who had seen some, and people who had never seen this match talked about it. That's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
That means it has grown to a legend at that point. And, of course, when you hear the stories, or when I heard the stories when I was a kid, you know, the place looked like a horror film by the time it was done. Yeah, it was pretty brutal, but it didn't live up to what I had been told. I didn't even see this match the last few years. You can find some grainy old copies of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I suggest that you do, because those of us who preferred the old school Southern wrestling style, this is the shit we miss today.
Yeah.
I don't miss people getting injured or anything, but I do miss the look and feel and the unexpected turn of holy shits that you would get during a match.
Yeah. And that match has so many ups and downs in the match. I know afterwards, not necessarily shortly after, but several years later, you know, see these different shoot interviews and this and that. Piper, no giveaway. Piper goes over, but Greg the Hammer on one of the interviews talks about that they expected a bigger pop at the finish, but there were so many pops throughout the entire match that the finish was just another thing. So it was just that good. It was like just a big constant pop of holy shit moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
he said, other than that, you know, he was ribbing. Of course, he said, yeah, other than I got beat, you know, but putting Piper over, whatever. He loved the match. He was a brutal wrestler, and Piper hung right there with him. They beat the dog piss out of each other, like we talked about, and blood, guts, and gore, you know, right there. So, yeah, if you haven't seen that match, there's several links to it out there on YouTube. You can find it. It's well worth your 15 or 20 minute time to watch that match, whether it's grainy or not. But, I recall when it was happening, I didn't see it, you know, go to the closed circuit, but within a month or so, I was one of the ones, you know, knew about it on TV, but also one of the ones buying the magazines going, holy shit, look at this, you know. Me and my buddies like, yeah, we knew about it then, but it's probably at least a couple years before I actually saw it, you know, after it took place. But yeah, that comes at number 3, the dog collar match between Greg the Hammer Valentine and Roddy Piper. Starrcade, 1983 NWA. Check it out, folks. It'll be worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby, I'll intro this next one because this is going to be one for you to talk about. Number 2 is a little thing we're going to call the good attitude bonus, but you're going to have to explain to us what that means.
Yeah. Okay, so it's actually good attitude pay. Good attitude pay.
Oh,
and
sorry.
You get a bonus. No, you got a bonus. So when I was out in the Maritimes, I heard this story. Ron Starr had worked with Piper. He worked with them over in Portland. And Don Owens was a promoter, so, you know, this is a secondhand story. But, man, it went so far for my very first territory that it sunk in. And I still use it today on where I'm going to go with it. But the good attitude pay was basically, I guess, that Don Owens, the promoter out there in Portland, he'd tell the two guys to shoot. And they get like $25, the winner. And he always thought the first match was a shoot. And of course the boys ended up working. I don't know, it was like $30 and they split it 15 each or whatever, but they'd make it look so legit like they were shooting. But the other thing he gave out good attitude pay. And the boys would be in the locker room, you know, some of them smoking cigarettes, some of them were doing Hindu squats or whatever the fuck they're doing, jacking off, whatever. But there'd be a card game going on, as there's many times on the road. You hurry up and wait, so you're there. But Piper would always be at the card table, and there'd be 4 or 5 guys playing cards. But every time the promoter walked by, right as like Piper had this instinct, Ron said, that he would jump down and start doing push-ups. And so the promoter look in there and see these fucking guys, some of them over smoking, some of them over fucking, you know, just getting dressed, whatever. Some of them were playing cards. And there's Piper. And he's like, 9, 10, you know, he's pumping out some fucking push. And as soon as he walks out the doorway, of course, he jumps right back up and starts, you know, playing cards. And the word was he would do it because Don Owens would always come. I think they did it on, that town may have been like a Monday town or whatever, but he would pull him to the side and say, hey kid, here. And he'd give Piper like 10 or 15 or $25. He goes, that's good attitude pay. Don't tell any of the other boys now. He said, I saw you in there working out. I know you're going to be something in this business. That's good attitude pay. So that's where I got the good attitude pay from, was from that story. And Ron Starr used to, he'd tell it every 2 or 3 weeks while I was up there. And it's like, boys, you know, because myself and my partner at the time, we were doing Hindu squats and push-ups and this thing. And he's like, you boys are trying for a good attitude pay. There's no fucking good attitude pay here. Just get out there and do your jobs, you know. But what we did, what the boys did, me, Goldie Rogers, Eddie Watts, and Rico Federico, we always traveled together. So we started using the good attitude pay on girls. So that's why I still use it today. Nothing vulgar here. No reason to put your headsets down or turn off your podcast. But if we see a good looking girl at the gym, or we, met one out on the road, a rat somewhere, and, everything went good, and you feel like, hey, you're in a groove and you had a good night. Let's just say that, or successful date, as one of them chicks, she always got, you see at the gym next day and you look at your buddy and say, hey, right there's some good attitude pay right there, man. Cause they hook you up, So I could be with my brother, even, both my sons probably know if I say, hey, good attitude pay, they knew where I'd been at or done something, So I just kind of kept it going with, hey, that chick there, man, she deserves some good attitude pay. And so, everyone gets some good attitude pay sometimes, but it all started with that story of Piper popping down and pushing out some push-ups and letting the promoter see him. He was there and he was going to do business and make some extra money, and he always got that, good attitude bonus and that good attitude pay, because you're going to do good, kid. I see you in there working out hard.
That's
so
awesome.
That's number 2, man.
Yeah.
So that's our good attitude pay, Jeremy. Let's go to number 1, brother. And I know this may be our longest podcast yet. We wasn't trying to do that, but it's just happened because it's been such a great topic.
Yeah,
so we're going to finish up here though with number 1, and I'll let you introduce it.
Absolutely. So then
we'll go from there.
The number 1 thing, I don't even know if we call this best moments or whatever we're doing, but the number 1 most important thing we have on our list about Roddy Piper was his rivalry with Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Which lasted, almost 20 years or 15 to 20 years, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, we figured out about 15 to 20 years, we said, yep.
Yeah. It came in, Piper came in and he was the heel to going after Hogan. There was the Cyndi Lauper stuff. The one thing I'm going to reference here real quick is wrestling has always been trying to get mainstream popular appeal. And in Cyndi Lauper and, Captain Lou Albano and the whole intermixing and the music videos and MTV climbing to prominence back in the day, this is something that did it. Not only was there, modern pop culture crossover, but now all of a sudden there was Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling on TV. Mm-hmm. And Roddy Piper was the number 1 bad guy in that whole show. Even when Roddy Piper wasn't really doing much, his toy was still coming out as the bad guy toy. You've said it before, and I'll ask you to explain it a little bit. You have said no Piper, no Hogan. You want to expand on that a little?
Right. That's what I was thinking. Is I've heard it said, of course, Iron Sheik gets beat by Hogan, so you have to have an Iron Sheik in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. But when Hogan, he has to have, in order to be that, all American, here he is, the superstar that he become. He has to have a fucking villain. And if there's no Roddy Piper, there's no Hulk Hogan. Because Piper was the most hated overheel there was. It helped set up, the very first WrestleMania. You made the references there to the pop culture and to the crossovers. But Hogan needed an opponent. And for all those years, Piper was that opponent. And if you don't have a Roddy Piper, you probably don't have a Hulk Hogan reaching that star status. I'm not saying he wouldn't have been a big star, but Piper, who better than Piper to help him, become, you got the first couple of WrestleManias with Piper. So your WrestleMania is your top 2 events, or your top 2 matches rather. For the first 2, you've got a Piper and a Hogan involved. And again, the simplest way I can say it is there's no Hogan without a Roddy Piper. And, that's because Piper was such a good heel, and it set up those WrestleManias, and it just went ongoing. And even like you said in the cartoon, the Rockin' Wrestling and the whole everything all through the years, there was that rivalry there. And, I'll let you finish it up because I know you have somewhere where you're going with it for the last ending of it. But I'm just thinking all through those years, if you go back and look, and you've got Hulk Hogan doing movies, you had Roddy Piper doing movies. But I'll take a Roddy Piper movie over a Hulk Hogan movie any fucking day of the week, man. Back to the reference of They Live and some other. He was in. I recall being up in Vancouver, and he was up for shooting an episode of Viper that was on TV at the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't forget Hell Comes to Frogtown.
There you go. See, so
Yeah.
I don't want to see fucking Hulk Hogan in a toupee and then another one where he's fighting a tiny lister or whatever, you know. But I will see a fucking Roddy Piper any day of the week over that. So I'm just saying, I'll let you finish up because I know you have something to say about the latter part of the rivalry. That was like 15, 18 years later. But I just say with no Roddy Piper, there's no Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, and the nice thing is years later at WCW, they did get to kind of put a capstone on it when a now face Roddy Piper is fighting a heel Hulk Hogan and gets the win, but unfortunately nobody knew if it was for the title or not. I don't know how that happens, but Roddy Piper did get a clean win on Hulk Hogan in a reverse circumstance, which was kind of a cool thing to see then.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great rivalry that they could use periodically or, you know, use consistently at the beginning. And even when they brought it back and dusted it off, I wasn't sick of it.
Right. And I want to say this in retrospect too, from what I just now said. None of that was a dig towards Hulk Hogan because we know what a huge star he was. But it took that protagonist, you know, to act just someone out there poking him, you know, had to have someone to push him, and that's who it was, and that was his nemesis. That was Piper. Oh, yeah. And so, again, it wasn't a dig toward Hogan or his work or his movies and the success that he's had in and outside the wrestling business. But to me, you know, Piper was the man, and you can use that term with him, as I said earlier, icon. You know, you've got absolutely. People say heroes and legends, and they throw these words around. But there's only a few people to me that I said it on a Dusty segment, and I can safely say it on this segment. Rowdy Roddy Piper, may he rest in peace, was a wrestling icon, or is a wrestling icon. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, we lost Roddy Piper just about 3 years ago. When this comes out, it'll be a few days.
Yes.
It'll still be a few days before. That was also, if I remember right, that was the same year Dusty Rhodes died. So it was kind of a shitball of a year for wrestling fans. But you know what? I'm always happy to talk about the things I like about wrestling. Bobby, I did get a friend of ours or a friend of mine who's in a rock band over in New York area. They're called the Reign of Zaius. I'll put links in the notes to get to it. They actually did a song about the movie They Live, and we're going to use that to play us out this week.
Yes, thank you very much. Listeners, thank you for joining in to us this week. Please follow the Geekish Cast on Twitter at the Geekish Cast. Follow me at Bobby Blaze 744, or go to the Belll to Belll Blaze on Twitter, or go to the Belll to Belll Blaze podcast on YouTube page. So, and give us a shout out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now.
Oh, something about a fucking bag. What do you got in the bag?
Yeah. So I got.
What you got?
Well, check this out. So first, I've got some bananas. I got some bananas here for you.
Oh, shit.
And here, take a couple of these. Oh, I've also got this letter from WCW saying I bought your debt, so now you owe me. So you're not getting out of doing podcasts with me for a while.
Okay.
And then right here in the bottom of this bag, you want to guess what I got?
Fuck, bananas, and he fucking bought my debt, so I'm indebted to you. I don't even want to fucking take a guess, man. Just tell me what's in the fucking bag.
Well, here, Bobby, I want you to look over at that exit door over there on our left, okay?
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. Take a look there. I got you a fucking coconut.
Oh, fuck, you stiff prick. Goddamn. Fuck you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. For Bobby Blaze and myself, we'll catch you next week. Please stick around and check out Reign of Zaius and their song They Live.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.